Well, 2023 like drama is starting back up in the Philadelphia Eagles locker room, and you can only blame the captains for this one. I'll get into it in this Tuesday edition of Locked On Eagles.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. We are brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use our code in all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Louie DiBiase joining you on this Tuesday edition of the show. Normally it's stock up, stock down after a 22-16 win over the Carolina Panthers. The Eagles have won 9 straight games, which is tied for the longest win streak in franchise history. Saquon Barkley broke LaShawn McCoy's single-season rushing record in franchise history. The vibe should be really, really high, and yet I feel like I'm doing a show about the 2023 Eagles because, yet again, not one this time, but 2 Philadelphia Eagles captains cannot keep their mouths shut publicly, and they are now causing drama that the media is going to completely run with, and it leads to more long-term and alarming questions about how united this locker room is, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Like, this is how the Eagles operate when things aren't always going perfect. They love to go to the media. They just can't keep things in-house. And 2 guys I'm talking about, we all know, A.J. Brown, Brandon Graham. Like, when you talk about the context of what these 2 guys are saying after this win, which feels like a loss at this point. Like, is A.J. Brown correct in being frustrated with Jalen Hurts in the passing game and voicing those frustrations to the media after the game? Like, he's correct in what he is saying specifically. 100%. It has not been good enough. The Eagles are currently the 31st ranked passing team for an 11-2 football team that has as much money invested in the passing game and the talent that they have and the track record that this personnel has. It is inexcusable. So what he is saying, correct. He is 100% justified in feeling the way he does. Brandon Graham, who went on Sports Radio 94 WIP Monday night to voice his frustrations with A.J. Brown, going to the media to voice his frustrations about the passing game when they won the football game, pretty much alluding to him being a little bit selfish. Is Brandon Graham correct in being frustrated with A.J. Brown going to the media? 100%. I think he's correct in that. A.J. Brown, even last year, by skipping those press conferences after games at the end of the year during the collapse, like, he thought he was avoiding saying things like he did on Sunday, where he was just saying the passing game and being very frustrated and clearly subtweeting basically his quarterback. But his lack of words last year left it open for interpretation by the media, and that caused even more drama. So yeah, Brandon Graham is correct that A.J. Brown needs to handle things better. Like, A.J. Brown is a captain, and you cannot take this to the media. But Brandon Graham made these comments through the media on the radio station, the very radio station that last year tried to run A.J. Brown out of town. And basically in every opportunity they had, tried to create trade rumors and how A.J. Brown doesn't want to be an Eagle and how there's legitimate drama between Jalen and A.J. and Nick Sirianni and pretty much everybody. Brandon Graham, like, you're a captain that's been on this Eagles team longer than anybody in franchise history. You're in year 15 and you're not even playing right now. For you to say on a radio station that does this, you have to handle things in-house. I mean, it's completely hypocritical. And he knows it. He apologized right after the game. He talked to, I believe it was, I can't remember which Eagles beat reporter, but I saw on Twitter that Tim McManus of ESPN, that Brandon Graham said, you know, he messed up and he just wants this team to win football games and he's trying to lead. Well, this isn't the way to do it. And this was a huge reason the 2023 Eagles locker room became so divided, because A.J. Brown, in so little words, was saying so many words about the vibes of this football team. Anonymous sources going to the media in articles talking about how miserable this football team is, pointing fingers at the offense, at the defense, at the coaches. They all seemed miserable, and a lot of it was because, for some reason, Now, multiple cores in a row, back-to-back Eagles cores that have been to Super Bowls and have made the playoffs in 7 of the last 8 years now after clinching on Sunday with that win, for some reason can't seem to help themselves by giving the most vicious football media market in the NFL. And trust me, I've been a part of it for a long time. I'm kind of a hypocrite in saying that, of course. You gave that media, you continue to give that media ammo to create drama and put more pressure on yourself. I mean, that's just not the way to do it. If you're A.J. Brown, even though you are correct and justified in how you're feeling, handle that in-house. Trust me, I'm a media guy. This helps me. It's helping my numbers. How is this going to help you, A.J. Brown, by making those comments to the beat reporters? Brandon Graham, how is this going to help if there is real tension between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts? You think this is going to make A.J. Brown feel better or be like, yeah, you know what? I got to clean this up and I got to do better myself. I think it's going to piss A.J. Brown off that he feels like Brandon Graham made him out to be a scapegoat, made him out to seem like a selfish player during a 9-game win streak. When I think A.J. Brown, even in the win streak, is justified in being frustrated about the passing game because you can't be this one-dimensional if you want to win a Super Bowl. There's going to be times this year against Pittsburgh, probably next week, against Washington in the postseason, where you're going to have to effectively throw the football. That doesn't mean suddenly they shouldn't be a run-first team through Saquon Barkley. I think that is the right strategy for this football team. But A.J. Brown is correct in being mad and not satisfied with this passing game. Is some of it self-driven? Sure. But I don't think it's all that self-driven, to be honest, because A.J. Brown is still putting up numbers. I think he knows they need to be more well-rounded and complete. You can't barely beat a 3-9 Carolina Panthers football team that's terrible against the pass and the run and not be able to have success against them. I don't think that he's going to find Brandon Graham's comments productive. I don't think either captain, that's the most annoying part of this, is they're both captains. I don't think either captain handled this the right way. I don't think Darius Slay handled his stuff earlier in the year well. It's annoying to see that this isn't rookie Quinyon Mitchell making comments to the media. It's not a guy that hasn't really been a core piece of the puzzle. No, this is Brandon Graham, A.J. Brown, two of your most important voices in that locker room that, again, are captains that are creating now drama. Tomorrow morning, today's a Tuesday show, but I'm recording this right after I listened to that interview with BG on WIP. This is going to create a circus tomorrow. Brandon Graham's back on WIP tomorrow. You know WIP is going to be running with this for weeks now. You better hope you beat the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday. That game suddenly becomes massively, massively more important than it already was in the pursuit of the 1 seed against Detroit. I don't think I'm overreacting because of what happened last year. This felt so much like 2023. And, you know, Brown and Hurts, like, because it's them today, I'm a bit more alarmed. I was a little hesitant and nervous hearing Jalen Hurts yesterday during his press conference after the win against Carolina make like similar comments to stuff he said last year when they were trying to figure out the collapse. Things like, you know, balancing the standard they've set for themselves, but also enjoying wins. I think that pressure to be great and perfect all the time and to be a Super Bowl team made them miserable last year, and they put so much pressure on themselves. And I think Jalen recognizes that and is like, okay, yeah, we want to have that standard and strive to be a title team like that. We want to play like that every single week, but at the same time, you got to enjoy the wins. You got to take them when you get it. Like, how do you find that balance? I think hearing him say that, I was like, uh-oh, that's something that they talked about last year. Are they trying to deal with that right now? Is it a problem? Like, the vibe Sunday felt like 2023. And I wanted to believe, truthfully, that they just expected more against a bad team. And that still might be the case, that they just said, look, we should have beat Carolina by 30, not by 6. And we shouldn't have actually lost, because if Xavier Legette catches that ball, they should have lost that game. Like, we should expect more and not be happy with that win, which I would be okay if that's what the sentiment was. But, and especially because they seemed so close all year, the vibes felt great. That is what I assumed. But then today happened right after, and that alarmed me because this involved guys on offense that were part of last year's collapse. Like, this wasn't the young defense that truly does look bonded and looks completely tight. Like, they look like the tightest unit in the NFL. But the offense, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, even Brandon Graham on defense last year, these were guys that are part of that core that collapsed for a lot of these same reasons. So to hear this drama start today, yeah, it makes me a little bit nervous. 100% not going to lie. Not going to lie. I'm really going to be watching the Steelers game closely to see what the vibes are like, how the passing game is. I mean, this puts just a lot of pressure on yourselves when you didn't have to do that. Like, there was enough pressure on the passing game to get self-corrected. There was enough pressure on you to stay, up to date with, or I should say, like, in line with Detroit running for the 1 seed. But you put more pressure on yourself by calling out the passing game publicly to the media. A.J. Brown, Brandon Graham, you put more pressure on the Eagles and A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts by calling him out, by calling A.J. out on the radio this week. I don't think this is productive at all. And I know BG had good intentions. He's one of the best leaders in franchise history. This doesn't change that. But this was just, he made a mistake here. This was just not the way to handle it. And it's very frustrating that the Eagles handle this like this all the time. Like, this is just how they do business. They just can't keep their mouth shut to the media. And in Philadelphia media, it's like, how are you not tight-lipped with them? I mean, we're going to run with this for a week now. And it's just not going to help. You're riding a 9-game win streak. You should not be talking about this kind of stuff. You should be talking about how to fix the passing game. You can make comments to the media in a productive way about, here's how I think we can fix things. Here's what I think the issues are. But when A.J. Brown just sitting there with a piss-pot look on his face saying it's the passing game, when Brandon Graham's going on the air today and just going after him, I just don't think that's very productive. I think it helps me. It helps my YouTube views. It doesn't help the Eagles. And I'm still a fan at heart. I don't want to see that. I don't want to talk about this. Even though it helps the show, it doesn't help that football team. How do you fix the passing game? I got thoughts on that coming up next. This is the Locked On Eagles podcast. We are sponsored today on the Locked On Eagles podcast by Ice Shaker. I know you're like me and your holiday shopping list is, let's just say it's far from complete. I'm a little behind. I'm kind of I wait to the last minute. And if that's the case for you, I've got the perfect gift for the passionate sports fan in your life. Perhaps you've heard of Ice Shaker. Ice Shaker is now officially licensed with the NFL, NHL, NBA, NCAA, and MLB, and they'll make for the ideal gift. I got one right here. Shout out to Ice Shaker for sending me this brand new Philadelphia Eagles awesome workout bottle. Gino got the Kelly Green one. I got the Midnight Green. These things are awesome. I've been taking it with me pretty much everywhere. It's created and used by the Gronkowski brothers. Ice Shakers has sold over 1 million bottles. They have changed the game with workout bottles. I take it to the gym every day. And this is the gift you've been looking for. Go to iceshaker.com. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at checkout to save 25% off on your order. It's kitchen-grade stainless steel. It won't absorb odor like the plastic bottles do. It's got that patented twist agitator that breaks up powders, but is silent when you shake it instead of, that annoying ball. They're awesome. I'm obsessed with my Ice Shaker. Go to iceshaker.com and use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL at checkout to save 25% on your order. Order your team branded bottles today at iceshaker.com. Today's episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast, we are also sponsored by Prize Picks Daily Fantasy Sports. Prize Picks, if you love watching the game, you're going to love them. The easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy football, whether it's, football or even basketball or any of your favorite sports, Prize Picks makes your holidays bigger and brighter. Here's why you got to check it out. You can win up to 200 times your money, 200 times your money on Prize Picks. Plus this holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Pickmas and offering 2 free picks in December. And when your picks hit, Prize Picks makes it easy to cash out. You can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. This week, you could take Travis Kelce to get for 70 or more receiving yards. Maybe you think A.J. Brown's going to do that. I'm not so sure against Pittsburgh. Lamar Jackson to throw for more than 250 yards. It's quick, simple, and so much fun to challenge yourself and your friends. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL. Get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly when you play just $5. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, thanks so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Louie DiBiase joining you on a Tuesday show that I'm recording Monday night. I couldn't wait because Brandon Graham went on Sports Radio 94 WIP and just completely called out A.J. Brown. And again, what he's saying is correct. What A.J. Brown said and felt on Sunday after the Panthers win is correct. The passing game is not good enough, but you handle that in-house or you say it in a more constructive way. If you're Brandon Graham and you are preaching, you talk the talk that they need to handle things in-house, you need to walk the walk in that way too and not call them out through the media. He made a comment, by the way, that he almost was alluding to Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown not being friends anymore. And I thought maybe he misspoke. Maybe he just meant personal issues, as in A.J. Brown, like individual issues of not getting enough targets. You can't let that affect you guys being teammates, having winning be the ultimate goal. But then when BG was talking to Tim McManus after his interview with WIP, he did say that he assumed things about their friendship that is not correct. And he is apologizing to both of them about that. So BG did actually mean he thought there was real beef between Brown and Hurts. Now, I hope that was just him assuming and kind of just spitballing, because that's a problem if not. And I'd be surprised if that is the truth, because I think A.J. Brown's frustrated about Jalen Hurts as a quarterback on the field. But it would be weird to say they have personal issues when, number one, A.J. Brown signed an extension this offseason. And number two, like, you see them celebrating. They got the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air handshake after during the Rams game when Hurts threw Brown a touchdown. They pray together, him, Brown, and Smith, Hurts, Brown, and Smith, before every game, including Sunday. So I don't know if that part was correct. I think BG might have just been kind of in a groove and kind of just spitballing, but I really hope that's not it, or else this could be a McNabb TO situation. And by the way, those two went back at it on Twitter today. It was a toxic, but yet very on brand Eagles Twitter day. that is 100% correct. And this all, again, stems from the passing game just not being good enough. And that, again, is very justified. A.J. Brown, his comments are very justified, and his emotions, I think he's right to be mad. Even in this 9-game win streak, they have to figure out the passing game. You have to not be one-dimensional if you want to win a Super Bowl. I've been able to go on this show and admit, as a pass-heavy guy, that a run-first approach this year is the right way to do it. I think they can win a championship that way. I've said it on the podcast over the last month. But not if it's in spite of the passing game. They can't be running this much because they don't think they can have success throwing. They should be running this much because they think this is a historic combination of Saquon Barkley, this offensive line, and Jeff Stoutland, and that's what's going to be our bread and butter. That's going to be our Batman. But you need Robin. You need the passing game to be Robin, and it just hasn't been since that really good stretch of games where it was the Bengals win, the Jaguars win. I would even say against Dallas. I think they had a lot of success throwing the football, getting explosive plays, and lately they haven't been able to do it. 2 games in a row where they've had under 120 passing yards. That's not good enough. And Jalen, this quote really stood out to me yesterday during his press conference. Quote, "Some things don't get you until they get you." They know it's an issue. And that quote really makes me think of 2023. I'm not going to sit here on this show and say they won, so we're not going to talk about the negatives, because that's what happened last year when they were 10-1, and there were real issues they did not fix, and that's why they collapsed. That's a huge reason they collapsed. Wins don't always cover up all of your problems. Eventually, they can come back to hit you at the worst time. And Jalen said it best. Some things don't get you until they get you. They need to make sure this passing game does not get in the way of them pursuing a Super Bowl. And I don't want to go into more discussions about, is this a problem? We know it is now. The team knows it. Now it's about, how do you fix this? You got 4 regular season games left. You're 11-2. How do you fix this? You can fix it. I mean, you don't have to let the season collapse. You have all of the people in-house that you need to be a good passing offense. So you can fix it. How do you do it? Well, I think part of this is there's some acceptance, though, that you have to have. Like, a little of this is who they are. In 4 or 5 years with Jalen Hurts, this is who they've been as a passing offense. You're going to be inconsistent in structure. He's not going to throw with anticipation a lot. He's not really going to utilize the middle of the field. He's going to be up and down. He's going to be a streaky passer, but you're also going to get explosives every week, 20-plus yard passing plays. You're going to get big plays outside of structure with his legs. You're not going to get a lot of awful games. Even his worst games are, 120 yards, but he still has 3 touchdowns, barely any turnovers. Like, he's going to be efficient. That's what you're going to get with Jalen Hurts, I think, the majority of his career. And especially this year, you're going to get less big passing games because you're riding a historic run game. You've also had injuries, so A.J. Brown's been out at times. Devontae Smith has missed 3 games. Dallas Goedert continues to get injured. You haven't been in sync that way. So there's some things you have to just accept, call a spade a spade. This, to a degree, is who they are. But this year, even with that acceptance, it still hasn't been good enough. There are real, tangible things that they can fix where you can still have much bigger passing performances this year that you had last year and in 2022. For instance, the explosives. Like, you got to get those back. At least early in the year when they were still an inconsistent passing team, the deep ball was working. You were getting 20-plus yard plays through the air. It felt like every single week. But lately, and I think I know why, they've been far too conservative in the passing game. Jalen Hurts had a season-low 5.1 yards per attempt against Carolina, 5.6 yards per air yard attempt. I should say 5.6 air yards per attempt. He held onto the football for 3 seconds or more on the majority of his dropbacks on Sunday. He was just hesitant to get the ball out. They were too cautious. He just wasn't pulling the trigger. He was gun shy. And I think what that is Jalen Hurts has made such an effort, a conceited effort, to make sure he's not getting in the way. He's being a good game manager. He's not turning the ball over like he was early this year. He's letting Saquon Barkley be the Batman. He's playing efficient, clean football and not turning the ball over. He's managing the game. I think the coaches told him after the bye week to do just that, to own this run-first identity. But I think it's gone a little bit too far where Sunday he's got plays down the field to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and he's seeing them and hesitating. He's too late on the pass, or he's saying, no, I'm not, that's not worth it. I'm not taking that chance. I'm just going to check it down to Dotson for a 3-yard gain. He's not throwing it up and giving Smith and Brown opportunities when they're 2 of the best contested catch receivers in the league. He's seeing open plays that are deep, but he's not trusting his eyes. He's not trusting his arm. And that's not good. That's too overly cautious. We don't need another Sam Bradford on our hands. Yeah, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite because I was getting on Jalen Hurts early this year for the turnovers because a lot of those turnovers were awful. They're in bad spots, backed up in your own end zone, in the red zone, on 2nd and 1 where you just did not see the safety and you forced the issue. Some of those turnovers were really bad. But at the same time, you still have to be aggressive and give some of your weapons chances to make plays. Not all picks are bad picks. Last year, a lot of Jalen's turnovers, most of them actually, I said, no, I get what he was doing there. I'm cool with that. He was giving Brown a chance in a one-on-one situation, and the DB just made a good play. I want to see more of that, though. I want to see that part of the offense come back. You got to give those guys opportunities to make plays. And I think Kellen Moore needs to make an effort early in games to get Jalen, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith engaged and aggressive early. Take some shots early. Even if they don't work, whatever. Screw it. If it gets picked on the first drive, so be it. Take some shots. I do want to see the aggressive passing come back a little bit. I think they made the right corrections in fixing the turnovers and being more of a run-first team, but I don't want to overcorrect where now they're just the vertical passing game is gone completely. Last year, it was way too reliant on that area of their game. That was what was carrying them last year, not even the run game. It was the deep ball. It was the vertical passing game. They had no horizontal influence on a defense at all. But this year, I feel like they're going too far in the other end. So I think they should be a little more balanced early in games, get Hurts, Brown, and Smith involved in the game plan. I feel like then you won't see as many half-ass route runs as you see sometimes with these receivers. And Jalen Hurts is a very rhythmic passer. Like, he's somebody that needs to get into a rhythm. He's a momentum player, and it's hard to get into a rhythm when you're not throwing a lot, especially early in games. Like, you've got to get these guys going, I think, a little bit faster. Get Jalen on the move. I think to get him into a rhythm, a lot of the times he gets into a rhythm and gets confidence when he's making plays with his legs. Get him under center, play action, rolling, moving pockets, let him see the field better. I think that'll really help. And I just think overall, there needs to be a more urgent approach to starting games. Like, use tempo. That's how Doug Peterson, I feel like it was his fastball, and he didn't really have a counter for fixing the offense at times after 2017. But one thing that always did work with Doug when that core had their first quarter problems, because remember, they were bad in the first quarter too in 2018 and 2019 and 2020. How did he get Carson Wentz going? Tempo. Use tempo. I like the urgency of it. Sometimes, including Sunday, it just feels like they are too chill coming out of the gate. They are lackadaisical. They think they can just sleepwalk through the first quarter and they'll be fine. And a lot of the times, yeah, they're still fine. They're 11-2 doing this. They're the worst football team in the first quarter. They're the worst offense in the league in the first quarter, and they're still 11-2. But like Jalen said, what was the exact quote? I don't want to get it wrong. Some things don't get you until they get you. And eventually it can get you against Green Bay in the playoffs, Detroit. If you're in the Super Bowl against the Kansas City Chiefs, guess what? It'll get you. The Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens, who you just beat. You think that's going to work a second time? So I think those are some of the main ways to get this passing game back on track. Some of it's just who they are, but I think you need to be more aggressive, especially early on. Get Jalen on the move, tempo. I think that really seems to work. And use your historic run game to help the pass. Like, these counter runs are working so well. Use some counter RPOs. Use different play action looks. Kellen Moore is not doing that enough. Kellen Moore has got to help these guys out too to make sure that the offense isn't overly reliant on the run game. Again, I still want to be a run-first offense right now with Saquon breaking LaShawn McCoy's single-season rushing record. That should be your main fastball. But you got to have a curveball. You can't be running in spite of the pass. So that's where I stand with this, and it's a huge thing that they need to fix quick. There needs to be an urgency with this, and it's a tough test coming up on Sunday against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, this is a kind of a turning point game in the season. Like, all right, let's see if this was all hoopla from the media and they're going to fix the passing game, or if we have a real problem on our hands, for sure. I do want to finish the show off with some positives, so we'll get into that coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles. This episode of the Locked On Eagles podcast is brought to you by America's #1 sportsbook, FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app, they give you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks as always for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Louie DiBiase wrapping up this Tuesday edition of the show. I'm exhausted after these last few hours, man. I mean, Brandon Graham on WIP. I'm just taking a nice hot shower, thinking my day's over. Yeah, I'm going to watch some film and see how they can fix this passing game. And then boom, everybody's talking about BG. And I'm like, what's going on? Are they talking about Brandon Lee Gouton? Nope. Brandon Graham goes on the radio and calls out A.J. Brown. And again, he's extremely justified in being pissed off at Brown. A.J. Brown's extremely justified at being pissed off at Jalen Hurts. Be pissed off inside the locker room. Like, yes, as I said on the show earlier, this is helping me. Do not help Lou DiBiase on the Locked On Eagles podcast. Do not help the radio guys at WIP. Do not help the Inquirer beat reporters. That's not going to help your football team. It didn't help last year. It didn't help in 2018, 2019. This never is constructive. It always leads to bad things for good Eagles football teams, and they underachieve, not because of just this, but this never helps. It never helps. So that's kind of where I stand with that. I will say there were some positives in that win on Sunday. And the unfortunate thing is we're probably not going to talk about them now. Tomorrow, I'm telling you, it's going to be a complete circus on Eagles Twitter. I'll probably be avoiding that like the plague. But like one positive, especially from Jalen Hurts, I thought he was really clutch again in the fourth quarter, especially with his legs. Like he had some incredible scrambles on 3rd and longs. That 3rd and 7 throw to A.J. Brown in the fourth quarter was extremely clutch. He has more touchdowns this year than incompletions in the fourth quarter during the win streak. Like that's incredible. He's only had, I think, 4 or 5 incompletions in the fourth quarter during this 9-game win streak, and he has 6 passing touchdowns in the fourth quarter. Like that's unbelievable. I mean, he's so clutch, and that's the one great thing is that's still why I think the Eagles are better than Detroit. And it's still, even with all of this, why I think they're going to make the Super Bowl is, yeah, Jalen might be the worst first quarter quarterback in the league. I think he's the best fourth quarter quarterback, maybe outside of Patrick Mahomes. It's Mahomes and it's Jalen Hurts. And a lot of that is because of his ability to extend plays. He was heading into this Panthers game number 1 in EPA per play on scramble drill runs and designed runs. And I think after Sunday's performance, where he almost has 60 rushing yards and converts a couple crazy Houdini-like runs, I think those numbers are going to go up even more. So that was a big part of the win was Jalen Hurts scrambling and making things happen outside of structure. Throwing on the run, yet again, Sunday, chef's kiss. That throw to Devontae Smith across his body, the velocity on that was really impressive. Jalen Hurts, when trailing against Carolina, was 10 of 13, 71 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 58 rushing yards, and a rushing score. So Jalen, at least, one thing that's true, even if the passing game's struggling, he still is giving you elite production in a lot of other areas. Clutch football, running the ball, outside of structure plays, throwing the ball on the run, being clean with the football. Yet again, no turnovers in this game. Jalen can still, if he can figure this passing game out, like this team is going to be unstoppable. Like that's their one, and I'm not saying they need to be the 2022 passing offense, but let's get some first half of the 2023 season passing offense performances in there. If they can at least, again, they don't have to be a unit like that. If they can play clean football like they're doing and get those explosive plays back with the way the team is running the ball and playing defense, that's a championship formula. Like just get back to that floor. Don't put the pressure on yourselves of just being the best passing offense in the league. They're not going to be that. And I think they want to be. I think the front office wants that. The owner wants that. The coach wants that. The receivers certainly want it, and the quarterback wants it. I want it, but I don't think that's who they're going to be. So focus more on just getting back to even who you were against Cleveland this year, Cincinnati, Jacksonville. Get those explosives back. Start there and take baby steps. You got 4 games still to figure this thing out. Don't let this snowball, this drama snowball, these passing issues snowball like you did last year. I want to believe this year's team is different. The vibes have felt great. The locker room has felt close. It feels like they had the 2022 or 2023 after the Tampa loss this year, they would have been done. Like a month into the season, I felt like the season would have probably been over if it was last year's core. This year, it's felt different. But tonight worried me. And I'm going to be watching this closely. This is a very, very important game against Pittsburgh. If they go in there and they lay an egg again, throwing the football and the attitude of this team, or if they win and they're still not passing well and everybody's miserable again, and it's almost like last year when they beat the Giants on Christmas Eve after losing to the Niners and Cowboys, and you knew this was done. Like it was, the wheels were falling off. If that's going to be the vibe after Pittsburgh, even if you're 12-2, I'm going to be nervous. I'm going to be very nervous. Wins don't always tell the entire story. So they got to win on Sunday, and they got to do it in a certain way, I think, to really instill confidence in themselves, I think, and everybody else. So it's an important one suddenly on Sunday for more reasons than what we thought outside of just, getting the 1 seed. All right, that's going to do it for today's edition of the Locked On Eagles podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in and making us your first listen and watch each and every day. We're back for 3 more shows this week, so make sure you tune in on YouTube or wherever you get the podcast. Louie DiBiase signing off. Thanks as always for downloading, watching, and listening, and let's go Birds. Fly, Eagles, fly.